The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Valdez, Alaska, on your new fire apparatus, job number 32154. Please utilize this job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. We'll get started on a brief orientation of your new apparatus. Starting down at the front bumper. Located under the front bumper, you'll find two tow hooks. On the face of the bumper, you'll find two electronic siren PA speakers. Moving to the driver's side of the vehicle, you'll find dual air horns. Moving up to the cluster where the headlight is located, on the turn signal, you'll find a right and left turn signal. Marker light, you'll also find just inside of that location the headlight cluster housing the low and high beam headlights. Moving up from that, you'll find an emergency warning light cluster. Just underneath the Pierce logo, you'll find the release mechanism to allow the hood to be lifted open. Up onto the seamless one-piece windshield, you'll find 3 windshield wipers. On the outer edges, you'll find 2 mirrors, flat and at the very bottom, convexed. Up on the brow of the apparatus, you'll find 5 running lights. Just above that, on the roof line, you'll find a forward-facing LED light strip. And above that, you'll find your emergency warning light bar. Here are some close-ups of those images that we just talked about. Headlight cluster, turn indicator. You'll also find under the Pierce logo, there is a latch. This latch allows you to open the release for the hood. Once we've gained access into this area, you'll find a spring which will hold the hood in the upright position. As we move to the driver's side of the vehicle, you'll find your fill location for your radiator. There is also a placard for raise and lower for your cab. Moving to the right, the red switch will be the position switch for raise or position for lower. And then the black with the yellow housing will be the remote for operation. Located all the way in the far corner, you'll find the power steering fluid location. All the way to the passenger side, you'll find the fill location for your windshield wipers. Moving on to the side of the vehicle, this is going to be the driver's side. You'll find your auto charger. This is a shore inlet 20 amp auto eject plug. When plugged in, this will provide power to your battery charging system. Engine 2 logo. Let's move down to the section that houses some of the pump components. First, starting in the upper corner, you'll find a warning label regarding entanglement. Just beneath that, you'll find a warning label regarding a fall hazard and not to ride on the side of the apparatus. There are 2 discharges on this side, both 2.5 reduced down to 1.5. This is going to be your yellow and also, which is number 1, and your blue, which is number 3 discharge. To the right, you'll find your large diameter pump intake. Just beneath that, you'll find your driver's side auxiliary inlet, which is a 2.5 inlet. Just beneath that, you'll find all the associated drains, which are marked and color-coded. On the left-hand side, you'll find a LED light. Move through some close-ups here of some of these items that we just talked about. First, driver's side auxiliary inlet. This is a 2.5-inch female coupling. As we look to the netting area, this is what houses your crosslays. Let's look inside this area. First, at the very top, you'll find a release mechanism to allow that top portion of that speed load to be removed. Down at the bottom section, you'll find the number 1 and number 2 crosslay, white and red in color. You'll also find, once again, a warning label here regarding entanglement because of those hoses coming off of the side of the apparatus. Located between the number 1 and number 2, you'll find the release mechanism to allow the speed load to be removed. And then up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll find the location for your 2 tool. General view of the side of the apparatus.
Let's go ahead and start with the compartment door in the open position. This is the first compartment. If your pump is properly engaged, you'll find that this light will illuminate, indicating that your pump is engaged. To the left, you're going to find your system or unit radio. Just beneath that, you'll find an audible speaker. You'll also find your primer for your fire pump with some priming instructions below that, and also a panel gauge heater. To the right in the gray area, you'll find your master intake. Between the master intake and the master discharge, you'll find your test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure. They are currently have plugs located in them. On the right, you'll find your master discharge, and in the upper right-hand corner, you'll find if lit. This is your PCM fault and an audible speaker just beneath that. Also, as we move down to some of the gauges, you'll find on the left the white number 1. You can see that the bezel is white in color along with the discharge. Moving to the right, you'll find the number 2 discharge. You can see that the color is red and the bezel is red. Moving further across, you'll find your deluge discharge. And we'll move all the way to the right. This is your minimum operation maintenance schedule. And as we look at this plaque, you can see that there is a test pressure for 150, 200, 250 psi. On the left on this placard, you'll find the registered GPM, and on the right, you'll find the registered RPMs, which coincides with that test pressure. See your owner's manual for more information on how to conduct your minimum maintenance scheduled testing. To the right, you'll find your manufacturer by Fierce throttle control. There are 2 information things here. First, check engine will be in amber, and to the right, you'll find a stop engine, which will be in red. All the way down at the bottom, just above the throttle, you'll find your ready for throttle. That is going to be indicating that you can go ahead and use the operation. Continuing in this, there is also a water gauge. Located down in the panel next, you'll find your 2 electronic valves, number 2 discharge, and your large diameter passenger side discharge. These are 2 electronic valves. Just beneath that, you will find a warning label here that only trained personnel should operate this equipment, and that you should be advised by your service manual. To the left, you'll find your tank fill and recirculating line, and then to the right, you'll find your tank to pump. To the far right-hand side, you'll find your driver's rear discharge, and further over, you'll find the passenger rear discharge. These are the 2 2.5 discharges to the rear in your apparatus. Moving down to the next panel, you're going to find your primer drain. This is a twist, not a pull. Moving to the right, you'll find an access door. We'll cover what's behind that in just a moment. And then at the very bottom, you'll find all your associated discharge drains, color-coded and also labeled. Let's take a look behind the access door here. This is going to be your manual pump shift override. It is a protected switch, and there's also an indicator that you've engaged it. Just a couple of side views here. This is once again your Motorola radio. As we move down, there's a set of switches here. First, your driver front flood, compartment heater, diesel heater, crosslay lights, and an air horn. In between that, there is a future location if you need to add an additional switch. Let's take a look down the right-hand side of the apparatus. You can find that all of the compartments have LED lighting, including the ability for adding additional shelves. There are 3 bottle storage locations here with retainer straps. As we look to the right-hand side of the rear tire, you'll find bottle straps for another SCBA, in addition with your blue DEF fluid and green, which is the silver cap, diesel fill. As we move to the rear compartment, you'll find a slide-out tray. The release mechanism is on the right side. Underneath the vehicle, you can see your entire pump is enclosed. And as we move to the rear, you'll find your folding rear chocks just underneath. Let's move to the rear of the apparatus. As we look, we have a brake, turn, and also a reverse cluster. Moving up from that location, you'll find 3 steps that are fold down to gain access into the hose bed. You'll also find the 2 2.5-inch discharges, which are gated, or I should say reduced down to 1.5 inches. You also have, because of those discharges, a warning label regarding increased pressure, and there could be the potential for pressure behind those caps when removing, and to use caution. There is also a backup camera, and then also you have 2 switches, one on the right and one on the left side. This is going to be your hose bed lights. Down at the very bottom, you'll find an access door for storage. Down on the very far right hand side, you'll find your access module for your powered equipment rack. This is the control module that controls the lift or lower for your powered equipment rack. Let's move up to the hose bed area. You'll find 3 dividers. They are movable and also have grab handles cut into them. As we look to the rear section, this is that warning label regarding pressurized hazard and pressurized caps. You have a hose bed light. This is going to be on the driver's side rear. As we move to the very bottom section, this is that storage location I previously mentioned. Let's go back up to the top here. I would like to point out these yellow reflective diamonds. These are indicating the edge of the apparatus. These ensure firefighter safety, so when they're up there that they can see the edge of the walkway or the edge of the apparatus. Also in the dunnage area, you'll find your tank fill for the top fill for your water and also your deluge discharge. Image here of the equipment rack housing your ladders. We're now down to the passenger side of the vehicle, rear compartment, adjustable shelving, LED lighted, bottom shelf that pulls out. There are also SCBA storage locations on this side of the apparatus with retaining straps, both in front and in rear of the rear axle. As we move to the midsection, you'll find a LED warning light just over the rear tires. Moving forward to the next compartment, I would like to point out this warning sticker regarding extremely hot diesel exhaust temperature and to be cautious as to where you park your vehicle. At the very top, you will find a pull-out drop-down shelf. In that shelf also, just above it, you'll find a electrical plug. When plugged into shore power, this will be activated. Let's look down at the very bottom. You'll find air tank drains. There are 3 located here. There's also one just forward of this location also. Let's go ahead and take a look at the midsection here. This is mid-pump area. Once again, warning label regarding those hose entanglements and also a fall warning hazard. And then once again, last, this is going to be a warning label regarding those pressurized caps and the associated hazards. Let's identify a few of the items within this area. First, starting at the very top, this is your number 2 passenger side discharge. Because this is an electronic valve, it does have an override, which is right next to it. This is a 2.5-inch discharge, which is reduced down to 1.5 inches. Just beneath that, you'll find this green large diameter passenger side discharge. This is also an electronic valve, so you will find an override for that valve also. As we move down just underneath that, you'll find the drains and then also an additional tank drain for your air tank. And all the way to the left side, you'll find your passenger side and pump drain. As we move further across, you'll find your passenger side auxiliary discharge. This is a 2.5-inch female. We'll go ahead and move inside the cab now. First, I'd like to point out at all points of entry, you have this red grab handle to assist firefighters getting in and out of the cab for safety. Also located in the rear section of the apparatus, you'll find this access location. This is your access for fluid checks on your daily for oil, transmission, and also the ability to add. Looking here at the rear or this section here, which houses the rear wall, which has 2 SCBAs on the right and left side. Located in the center, you'll find a storage compartment with a roll-up door. Inside, you'll find shelving in addition with LED lighting inside. As we move to the forward section, you'll find 2 portable radio chargers. Back inside the compartment, you'll find at the very top, when plugged into shore power, you have additional outlets. At the very bottom, you'll find under access of battery, this is the silver battery cover for your 12-volt system. Close up here of your shoreline outlet, this is a 15 amp breakered plug. The very bottom left is the 12-volt. On the right side, you'll find shoreline outlet, which is a 15 amp. Once again, this is the driver's side, and you're showing your SCBA bottle location. Located just in front of those rear seats, you'll find your main radio. This is inside this compartment. As we look forward from the rear, moving forward, we'll talk about some of the items within this area. First, let's start behind the front seat, which is where you'll find your air compressor. When plugged into shore power, this will activate. Also next to it, you'll find your unit radio speaker. Let's go ahead and move to the front of the cab, where you'll find at all points of entry on all doors these warning labels and caution information. You'll also find in this area a drop-down panel to gain access to all of your breakers and also switching components. Above that, you'll find a glove box, and then slightly above the glove box, you'll find a grab handle. Located on the console area, you'll find your electronic siren push button, and then you'll also find just further in from that location your vehicle data recorder. Moving to the left, you'll find your siren control and PA control. Moving overhead of the passenger seat, you'll find this intense reading light and also some control modules. As we start in the control modules with this set of switches, you'll find your emergency master, your roof light, front warning, side warning, lower rear warning, upper rear warning, and then 2 future switch locations if needed. Let's move slightly to the left is where you'll find your fire comm system. This is the control module for that. In the upper corner of the dash, you'll find a USB style 12-volt access point. Moving to the center, here's a close-up of your Code 3 siren. This is your electronic siren and PA control. Overhead, you'll find your wireless fire comm system. Located also in the center, you'll find this red indicator. If this is lit, you will indicate that you should not move your truck and that you have a compartment door open or ajar. You'll also find an additional audible speaker for your Motorola system. This is going to be your main radio for your communications. As we look overhead, you'll find push on and push off red and white lights, in addition with pull strings for your air horns. Once again, located at the point of entry, you'll find these warning labels here. Just inside or up from that location, you'll find the door latch and also the lock mechanism for your door, and then you also have window controls. Let's go ahead and move now to the driver's area. First, I'd like to point out this warning label regarding the use of seat belts. Your seat belts are red in color so that they're easily visible. I'd also like to point out down at the lower section, there is a yellow placard, and then also the master battery switch. Let's go ahead and discuss that placard. This is manufactured by Pierce. This has the date of manufacture, August 2018, your job number 32154. It also has information here on your gross vehicle weight ratings, tire inflation. It also has your VIN number, which can also be found on the A pillar, and then all of your fluid capacities for your components and fluid type. Located about left knee, you'll find your tech module, engine transmission ABS diagnostic port, and also your display port. You'll also find your ABS diagnostic switch, regen inhibit, and also your DPF regen switch. Let's move to the door panel on this side. You'll find your window controls for all 4 of your windows on your vehicle. As we move to the center section, let's talk a little bit about some of the items on the column. Turn signal, windshield wiper control. As we move to the left side, you'll find your hazard, start, and ignition switch. Moving just inside of that, next to the column, you'll find your emergency master, your headlight and parking control, and also your panel rocker switch, which will brighten or dim the lights in your panel area. On the left, we'll start with the transmission, oil, DEF, and water. In the center, you have your tachometer and speedometer. To the right, you'll find your volts, fuel, front and rear air, and then above and below the speedometer, you'll find additional information if necessary for diagnostic assistance. General view here of the center section. This is just to the right of the operator. Let's start first on the left with your pull to apply your system parking brake, push to release. As we move to the right, you'll find your Pierce command zone. Tremendous amount of information here right at your fingertips. To the right, you'll find your Allison transmission pad with a note indicating to pump in neutral. Up on the side, you're going to find a set of switches. First, your load manager and fuel prime. Just beneath that, you'll find your engine brake on and off, your engine brake settings for low, medium, and high, a mirror heat, future, off-road traction, and your differential lock. Above that, you're going to find your driver's side mirror and passenger side mirror switches, and then down below, you'll find your stationary pump only and also your water pump. To the right, you'll find your climate control. As we look further overhead of the operator, we'll find this yellow placard. On this yellow placard, it's going to indicate your height, 11 feet 1 inch, your length, 32 feet 5.5 inches, gross vehicle weight rating at 49,500 pounds, And if you make any revisions to your apparatus, please make sure that you update this placard. Moving to the right of this placard, you'll find your emergency master, your roof light, front warning, side warning, lower rear warning on the next section down, upper rear warning, a future switch location, your electronic siren control. As we move to the right, there's an additional set of switches. Let's start in the upper left with the driver scene, passenger side scene, rear scene, and front flood. There are also 4 future switch locations if necessary. As we move looking to the rear of the apparatus, 2 SCBAs on the right and left, roll-up compartment in the center. Looking at the rear section, you find your 2 rear-facing SCBA seats. Congratulations, Valdez, Alaska, job number 32154. If you have any questions as to the content of this video or any future questions about your apparatus, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative. Congratulations.